Welcome to Lesson 5 of Week 12, focusing on the summary statement. This lesson teaches you how to interpret the detailed reviewer feedback you receive after peer review and how to use that feedback constructively. The summary statement, informally called pink sheets at NIH because they were historically printed on pink paper, compiles reviewer comments and scores into an official document. This document is perhaps the most valuable feedback you will receive as a grant professional. Expert reviewers have invested hours reading your proposal carefully and articulating their assessment. This level of detailed expert critique would cost thousands of dollars if you hired consultants to provide it. You receive it free with every submission. Learning to extract maximum value from summary statements transforms disappointment into development. Even harsh criticism contains guidance for improvement. Even unsuccessful proposals yield valuable lessons. This lesson teaches you how to read summary statements effectively, categorize feedback into actionable types, and use what you learn to strengthen future submissions. By the end, you will approach reviewer feedback as a resource rather than a verdict. Understanding what summary statements contain helps you know what information to look for. Different funders provide different levels of detail, but common elements appear across most systems. Reviewer comments are written critiques from each assigned reviewer, typically organized by evaluation criterion. Each reviewer provides their assessment of your strengths and weaknesses on each criterion. You can see how individual reviewers perceive different aspects of your proposal. This granularity helps you understand the basis for scores. Criterion scores are numerical scores assigned by each reviewer for each evaluation criterion. These scores accompany the written comments and quantify reviewer assessments. Criterion scores help you identify which areas were strong and which were weak. A pattern of low scores on a particular criterion signals where your proposal needs strengthening. Overall score is the final impact or priority score representing the panel's aggregate assessment. At NIH, this is the impact score. At other funders, different terms may apply. The overall score determines your funding competitiveness and should be understood within the context of the specific scoring system used. Resume and summary sections compile key points from review panel discussion. These sections synthesize individual reviewer comments into consensus observations. The summary highlights the most important strengths and weaknesses that emerged from panel deliberation. Pay particular attention to points that appear in the summary, as these represent shared panel concerns. Reading reviewer comments effectively requires a structured approach that separates emotional reaction from analytical interpretation. How you read matters for what you learn. Separate your first reaction by letting initial emotions settle before attempting analysis. Criticism of work you invested significant effort in naturally triggers defensive reactions. Feeling frustrated, discouraged, or angry is normal. Give yourself time to process these emotions before trying to learn from feedback. Attempting analysis while emotionally reactive produces poor interpretation. Read multiple times with different purposes. First, read for general overview to understand the overall tenor of feedback. Then read for detail, examining specific points carefully. Finally, read for patterns, looking for themes across reviewers and criteria. Each reading reveals different insights that single reading misses. Distinguish reviewers by noting which reviewer made which comment. Individual reviewers may have different perspectives or areas of expertise. One reviewer might be particularly critical of your methods while another finds them sound. Understanding which concerns come from which reviewer helps you contextualize feedback appropriately. Identify consensus by finding concerns raised by multiple reviewers independently. When 2 or 3 reviewers flag the same issue, that concern deserves highest priority. Consensus criticism carries more weight than isolated comments. If only one reviewer mentions something, it may reflect individual perspective rather than shared assessment. Understanding how strengths and weaknesses are presented and weighted helps you interpret their significance accurately. Most summary statements organize feedback with explicit structure, listing strengths and weaknesses separately for each criterion. This organization helps you quickly identify what reviewers valued and what concerned them. Use this structure to create systematic inventories of positive and negative feedback. Relative weight matters because the balance of strengths to weaknesses usually correlates with scores. More extensive weakness sections than strength sections typically indicate lower scores. More extensive strengths suggest higher scores. Note the relative length and detail of each section as an indicator of reviewer assessment. Specificity matters because specific criticisms are more actionable than vague ones. A comment like "the sample size calculation is missing" power analysis tells you exactly what to fix. A comment like "the methods are weak" tells you little about what to change. Specific feedback guides revision effectively. Vague feedback requires interpretation and may lead you astray. Praise analysis recognizes that even strong proposals have some weaknesses noted. Reviewers are trained to identify both strengths and weaknesses, so finding some criticisms in your feedback does not mean your proposal was weak. What matters is the severity and centrality of concerns. Minor methodological quibbles are different from fundamental challenges to your premise. Categorizing feedback into types helps you determine appropriate responses. Different types of criticism call for different revision strategies. Clarification needs indicate reviewers did not understand something you explained. The information was in your proposal, but your explanation was not clear enough. These concerns are addressed by rewriting for clarity, adding examples, or restructuring explanations. Clarification concerns are generally easy to address because you already have the content. You just need to present it better. Missing information concerns indicate reviewers wanted something you did not provide. Perhaps they wanted more preliminary data, more methodological detail, or more justification for a decision. These concerns require adding content to your proposal. Assess whether you can provide what reviewers wanted. If so, add it. Disagreement occurs when reviewers disagree with your approach or interpretation despite understanding it. They understood your reasoning but find it unpersuasive. These concerns are harder to address because simple clarification will not help. You may need to provide additional evidence, acknowledge limitations, or in some cases respectfully maintain your position while explaining your reasoning more thoroughly. Fundamental concerns occur when reviewers question your basic premise or feasibility. They doubt whether your research question matters, whether your intervention can work, or whether your team can execute the project. These concerns may require significant reconceptualization rather than incremental revision. Fundamental concerns often indicate your proposal needs more than polishing. Fixable issues are concerns that can be effectively addressed through revision. Identifying these issues guides productive revision efforts. Definition clarifies that fixable issues are concerns within your power to address through changes to your proposal. These are problems that have solutions you can implement. The issue exists not because your fundamental approach is flawed, but because your presentation, detail, or evidence was insufficient. Examples of fixable issues include missing methodological details that reviewers wanted, unclear explanations that can be rewritten for better comprehension, insufficient justification for decisions that can be supported with additional reasoning, lack of preliminary data that you can now provide, and weak organizational capacity statements that can be strengthened with more specific evidence. Revision approach for fixable issues involves adding content that was missing, clarifying passages that confused reviewers, strengthening arguments with additional evidence, and elaborating on points that received insufficient development. These are essentially writing and documentation tasks within your capability. Success likelihood is high for proposals where reviewers identified primarily fixable issues. If your core concept, approach, and team are sound, and reviewers mainly wanted more detail or clarity, addressing those concerns often improves scores significantly. Proposals that were near misses with fixable problems are excellent candidates for revision. Fatal flaws are concerns that cannot be adequately addressed through simple revision. Recognizing these helps you make strategic decisions about resubmission. Definition clarifies that fatal flaws are fundamental problems that revising your proposal cannot solve. These are not presentation issues, but substantive concerns about your project's foundation. No amount of rewriting will make reviewers believe your research question matters if they fundamentally doubt its significance. Examples of fatal flaws include reviewers questioning whether your research question is important, doubts about whether your proposed intervention can work given existing evidence, concerns that your team lacks essential expertise that cannot be added, fundamental disagreements with your theoretical framework, and feasibility concerns based on resources or timelines that cannot realistically change. Recognition of fatal flaws comes from multiple reviewers raising fundamental concerns. If 3 reviewers all question whether your approach can work, that consensus suggests a deeper problem than miscommunication. Pay attention when concerns are repeated across reviewers and strike at core elements of your proposal. Implication of fatal flaws is that you may need a new approach rather than revision of your current proposal. Sometimes the wisest response to fatal flaw feedback is redirecting your effort rather than revising. A fundamentally different project may be more likely to succeed than polishing something reviewers found unconvincing at its core. Sorting feedback into fixable and fatal categories requires systematic analysis. These questions guide effective categorization. Ask core questions about each concern. Can I actually address this issue? Some concerns have solutions, others do not. Will addressing the issue change reviewer assessment? Sometimes you can make changes that do not actually resolve what worried reviewers. Be honest about whether your proposed fixes would genuinely satisfy the concerns raised. Assess feasibility of potential fixes. Do you have the resources, time, and capability to address this concern? Reviewers might want additional preliminary data that would take 2 years to generate. They might want team expertise you cannot add. Theoretical fixes that are not actually feasible are not really fixable issues. Consider consensus in determining how to weight different concerns. Issues raised by multiple reviewers independently are more likely to be real problems than idiosyncratic perspectives. Consensus concerns deserve more weight and more serious consideration of whether they are truly fixable. Evaluate centrality of each concern to your proposal's success. A minor methodological quibble matters less than a challenge to your fundamental approach. Central concerns that undermine your core argument are more likely to be fatal than peripheral concerns about details. Focus your sorting analysis on concerns that strike at the heart of your proposal. Sometimes you will disagree with reviewer criticism. Handling disagreement constructively requires skill and self-awareness. Resist defensiveness as your initial reaction. Your instinct may be to dismiss criticism you disagree with as wrong or unfair. Before concluding reviewers erred, genuinely consider that they might be right. Reviewers are experts who read carefully. Their concerns deserve serious consideration even when you initially disagree. Understand the basis for criticism by asking why a reasonable expert might have this concern. Even if you ultimately disagree, understanding the reviewer's perspective helps you respond appropriately. What in your proposal triggered this concern? What might you have written differently to prevent this reaction? Recognize writing problems when reviewers misunderstood something you explained. If you wrote clearly and reviewers still misunderstood, your writing may not be as clear as you thought. Rather than blaming reviewers for not understanding, consider how you might explain more effectively. Misunderstanding suggests your communication needs improvement regardless of who is right about substance. Respectful response is essential when you genuinely disagree with criticism and choose not to change your approach. In your resubmission introduction, acknowledge the concern, explain your reasoning, cite supporting evidence, and maintain professional tone. Reviewers can accept reasoned disagreement when presented diplomatically. A systematic feedback analysis document transforms raw reviewer comments into an actionable revision plan. This structured approach ensures you address feedback comprehensively. Systematic catalog means listing every substantive comment from every reviewer in a single document. Extract comments from the summary statement and organize them. Include both criticisms and praises. Capturing everything in one place enables comprehensive analysis and ensures nothing is overlooked. Categorization marks each comment as fixable, fatal, or uncertain. Go through your catalog and assign categories based on the sorting criteria discussed earlier. Uncertain items need further analysis or consultation to categorize appropriately. Clear categorization focuses your revision effort on addressable concerns. Action assignment notes what you will do about each fixable issue. For every concern you can address, specify your planned response. What will you add, clarify, or change? Specific action assignments prevent vague intentions from failing to produce actual improvements. Accountability through written plans increases follow-through. Priority ranking orders issues by importance and frequency. Concerns raised by multiple reviewers deserve higher priority than isolated comments. Concerns affecting your overall score deserve higher priority than minor quibbles. Limited revision time should focus on highest priority issues first. Feedback analysis should include learning from praised elements, not just addressing criticisms. Strengths deserve attention too. Preserve strengths by ensuring revision does not accidentally weaken what worked well. In addressing criticisms, you might inadvertently change sections that reviewers praised. Before revising, identify your strengths and protect them. Make sure your revision improves weaknesses without degrading strengths. Understand success by examining why reviewers valued certain elements. What made your significant section compelling? What made your preliminary data persuasive? Understanding what works helps you replicate it. If reviewers praised your clear writing in one section, apply that same approach elsewhere. Replicate patterns by applying successful approaches to other proposals. If a particular way of presenting methods impressed reviewers, use that approach in future submissions. If your logic model visualization was praised, refine and reuse that format. Build a repertoire of elements that work. Build confidence through recognizing that strong elements validate your capabilities. Criticism is easier to remember than praise, but your strengths matter too. Reviewer praise confirms you can write effectively, develop compelling arguments, and present your work persuasively. Let praised elements remind you of your competence even as you work to improve weaknesses. Seeking additional perspective helps you interpret feedback accurately and respond appropriately. You do not have to analyze summary statements alone. Program officer consultation adds valuable context to your feedback interpretation. POs understand the review process, know what scores typically mean, and can clarify ambiguous feedback. They may know whether your score is likely fundable in the next round or whether revision is truly worthwhile. Contact your PO to discuss your results. Colleague review brings different eyes to your feedback. Others may interpret comments differently than you do. They may spot patterns you missed or recognize concerns you dismissed. Sharing your summary statement with trusted colleagues and getting their interpretation provides valuable perspective check. Expert input helps with technical criticisms outside your primary expertise. If reviewers criticize your statistical approach and statistics is not your strength, consult a statistician who can assess whether the criticism is valid and how to address it. Expert input ensures your response to technical feedback is appropriate. Mentorship from experienced grant writers guides interpretation for less experienced applicants. Mentors have seen many summary statements and know how to read them effectively. They can help you distinguish significant concerns from minor quibbles and develop appropriate revision strategies. Seek mentorship if you are newer to grant writing. Emotional processing is a legitimate part of responding to feedback. Ignoring emotions does not make them go away. Acknowledging them helps you move forward productively. Acknowledge feelings honestly. Receiving critical feedback on work you invested significant effort in naturally produces disappointment, frustration, and sometimes anger. These feelings are normal and do not reflect weakness. Pretending you are not affected by harsh criticism is neither honest nor healthy. Acknowledge what you feel. Time buffer allows emotional reactions before you attempt analytical work. If you receive feedback that upsets you, do not immediately try to create your revision plan. Give yourself a day or several days to process emotionally before you engage analytically. Attempting analysis while emotionally activated produces poor results. Perspective maintenance reminds you that one proposal is not your whole career. An unsuccessful submission is disappointing but does not define your professional worth or future prospects. Even highly successful grant professionals have many rejected proposals in their histories. Keep individual setbacks in perspective. Forward focus channels emotion into productive improvement. Once you have processed initial reactions, redirect that energy towards strengthening your work. Frustration with criticism can motivate thorough revision. Disappointment with results can drive determination to succeed next time. Use emotional energy productively. Summary statements provide learning opportunities beyond individual proposals. Organizations that systematically capture and use this learning improve over time. Documentation means keeping summary statements for institutional learning. Create archives of feedback received across all organizational submissions. This documentation enables pattern analysis and provides training materials. Do not discard summary statements after addressing immediate revision needs. Pattern analysis looks for trends across multiple submissions. Do certain types of concerns recur across proposals? Do proposals to certain funders consistently encounter similar problems? Patterns reveal systematic issues that individual proposals cannot show. Addressing patterns improves all future proposals. Training input uses real feedback to improve proposal development skills. Actual summary statements are excellent training materials. Reviewing real feedback helps staff understand what reviewers look for and how to anticipate concerns. Training based on actual experience is more compelling than hypothetical examples. Knowledge sharing helps colleagues learn from your experience. What you learned from your feedback can help others avoid similar problems. Share lessons learned in staff meetings, training sessions, or informal conversations. Organizational learning multiplies the benefit of individual feedback. Let us summarize the key points from this lesson on summary statements. Summary statements are valuable resources for improvement, not just disappointing verdicts to endure. Expert reviewers have provided detailed, specific feedback that would cost thousands of dollars to obtain otherwise. Treat this feedback as the valuable resource it is and extract maximum learning from it. An analytical approach transforms raw feedback into actionable insight. Read systematically, categorize feedback by type, distinguish different reviewers' perspectives, identify consensus concerns, and create structured analysis documents. This systematic approach ensures comprehensive response and prevents overlooking important points. Distinguishing fixable issues from fatal flaws guides strategic decisions about resubmission. Fixable issues warrant revision effort because you can address them. Fatal flaws may indicate that a different approach is needed. Let your feedback analysis inform whether to revise this proposal or redirect your efforts. In our next lesson, we examine triage and what it means to be not discussed. You will learn how to interpret this particular outcome, what it implies for your proposal, and how to respond constructively when your proposal does not reach panel discussion. Practice exercise. If you have a summary statement from a previous submission, create a systematic feedback analysis document. Catalog every comment, categorize each as fixable, fatal, or uncertain, and note your planned response to fixable issues. If you do not have a summary statement, review a sample available from your organization or professional network.